Hey, what family? Welcome back to my channel. I want to take this time to thank my new subscribers and all my subscribers, and let you know about the contest we're having. You just, in order to be entered into this contest, you just need to be subscribed and comment in any of my videos. The drawing will be held on March 1st during a live video, and yeah, that's it. I think that's, just to enter, you have to be subscribed and, like I said, comment in any of the videos, and it's going to be for a $50 Walmart gift card and jewelry. With that being said, let's get on to the video. Please keep in mind that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Today we are going to be diving into the story of little 10-year-old Scotty Baker. Scotty was a good little boy who loved to play basketball and shooting with his rifle. His mother, Ruth, and father, Donnie, were divorced. Scotty grew up in a small, quiet town in London, Kentucky. It was one of those towns where it's a small farming town, and about everybody knew everyone and trusted everyone. It was the day before Thanksgiving on November 25th, 1992. Little Scotty was at school, and like most kids, coloring and cutting out turkey. And the kids were looking forward to Thanksgiving lunch before leaving for the long holiday weekend. 10-year-old Scotty Baker, he was extremely excited because after school, he was to stay at his grandmother's until his father picked him up on Thanksgiving morning. Scotty had planned to spend the weekend with his father alone on a long-haul trucking run. Scotty was scheduled to catch the bus to his grandmother's house at 3 p.m. Now, this would have been the first Thanksgiving Scotty would spend without his mother, Ruth. So Ruth decided that she would go by the school and pick up Scotty before he got on the bus so that she could spend the remainder of the day with him before he left the next day with his father. She kind of wanted to surprise him before he left. Scotty was not at the school, so Ruth assumed that Scotty had already left on the bus to his grandmother's. The grandmother didn't live too far from the school, so when Ruth got to the grandmother's home to discover that Scotty had not arrived, she began calling all of Scotty's neighborhood parents, and no one had seen little Scotty. They began to search all around the neighborhood and still could not find him anywhere. Ruth decided to go back to the school to see if maybe he had just, if he'd missed the bus. Now, this was not like Scotty to go home with friends or just take the wrong bus. Ruth found the principal still in the office when she arrived at the school. She asked him for help in locating her son. But by this time, all teachers had already left for the long holiday weekend. But he called the teacher at home. While the principal was making calls, Ruth happened to look down and saw the it's like the early sign out release book, and saw that Scotty signed out at 11:20 that day. She just literally looked down and saw that someone by the name of Patricia Smith signed her son out of school early. Now, Patricia Smith was a distant relative of Scotty's father. And Ruth had remembered that name from when she was married to Donnie. And she had never really met the lady. but she remembers Donnie speaking of this distant relative by the name of Patricia Smith. So Ruth was kind of confused as to why Donnie would send somebody, that Scotty didn't even know, to pick up their son. Like I said, Scotty had never even laid eyes on Patricia Smith in his whole life. And even Ruth barely knew her. So why would his father ask her, of all people, to pick up Scotty? This was what Ruth was thinking. Scotty's father had never done anything like that before. So Ruth insisted that the principal call the police right away. Ruth was extremely upset that they would release her son to someone that wasn't even authorized to pick him up. The school principal even called the secretary at home to see if he could find out any information from her as well. The secretary confirmed that she did release Scotty to Patricia Smith and gave the principal a description of the woman who picked him up. The woman told the secretary that she was the cousin and they would pick him up and take him to his father. And this woman signed him out. The secretary noticed, as this woman was signing him out, the secretary noticed Scotty's class passing by the office on their way to lunch. So she grabbed Scotty and told him his cousin was there to pick him up and take him to his father. Scotty was just so excited to get his weekend started with his father that he didn't even question it. He just left happily with this stranger, and he never met her, but he didn't put up a fight. So the secretary kind of assumed that, all is well. The secretary explained that Scotty didn't look afraid and left willingly. Kentucky State Police sent 2 troopers to the school to help track down Scotty. The school handed over a photo of Scotty to the police and asked the usual questions to Ruth if she had given permission for Scotty to be picked up. They took information about Patricia Smith that the secretary provided. Ruth was unable to provide officers an address or a phone number for Patricia Smith, but did tell officers that she was a distant relative of her ex-husband, Donnie. Investigators were able to track down a relative of Donnie's distant relative, Patty Smith. Now, this Patty Smith didn't even fit the description that the secretary of the school gave to the principal. And her alibi checked out, so she was in no way involved in the abduction of Scotty. Police spoke to all the Patricia Smiths they could find within a 100-mile radius of the school, and with no luck. Police figured out pretty quickly that someone had used the name Patricia Smith as an alias. It had been 8 hours since Scotty was taken, and his mother, Ruth, still had not heard anything from police. Ruth tried calling Donnie to see if he knew anything, but Donnie was still on the road. Ruth was just hoping that Scotty was safe with his father. Police spoke with all of Scotty's friends and classmates, and there was one child at the school who saw Scotty leave with the woman. The child was able to give a description of the woman and the car, and also told police that Scotty was happy to be leaving and didn't look scared. He told officers that he had talked all morning about how excited he was to be going on the road with his father. Since there were no ransom calls or any other leads, the police had no choice but to focus on the family. Since in many child abduction cases, it's usually one of the parents. Ruth was eager to cooperate and help the police all she could. Police questioned Ruth about Donnie and his new wife, Stephanie, and about Ruth's divorce from Donnie. Ruth explained that she divorced 5 years ago, and the divorce was mutual, and that they remained on somewhat good terms for Scotty's sake, and that Donnie had always been kind and good with Scotty during their visits. Ruth told police that if anyone wanted to harm Scotty, it would be Donnie's new wife, Stephanie. Ruth explained that Stephanie was extremely jealous of Donnie's relationship with his son Scotty. Ruth said she really didn't know Stephanie very well, and all she knew really was that her son was all that her son told her. Scotty would only say he didn't want to go to his dad's anymore or be around Stephanie anymore. The police suspected that Ruth may have been a little jealous of Stephanie as well. They had to really just they had to suspect everyone at this point, because they just had no other leads. The police was looking at Ruth, Donnie, and Stephanie as suspects and felt that one of them just had to know something. 12 hours after Scotty's disappearance, Donnie finally made it back off the road. And it was during this time he learned of Scotty's disappearance. Stephanie and her father were waiting on Donnie when he arrived, and Donnie insisted that he and Stephanie go search for Scotty. And they searched for Scotty at all the places that they used to go together, like places they used to go shooting and taking walks. He searched almost until dawn, and that's when Stephanie pleaded with him to go home and rest. The next day, Donnie and Ruth went out to put flyers in town, hoping someone would just recognize little Scotty. By this point, both Ruth and Donnie were practically at each other's throat because each of them suspected each other of taking Scotty. And so as they were suspecting each other, they were still trying to just put out these flyers and, put their fears aside. They put their anger and fears aside to pass out the flyers. They spent that Thanksgiving Day searching for their baby boy. Later that Thanksgiving Day, police arrived at the home of Donnie and Stephanie. He wanted to question each of them alone so he could see if their stories matched or could find any inconsistencies. Police just knew it had to be someone close to the boy. The officer questioned Donnie first, and Donnie confirmed that he was supposed to pick up his son on Thanksgiving Day and take him on the road with him. He confirmed that he never asked Patricia Smith or anyone else to pick up his son from school. Stephanie told the officer that she was home all day doing laundry with her friend Susan. Stephanie told police she believed Ruth was hiding Scotty somewhere, and that Ruth was jealous of her marriage to Donnie and would do anything to win him back, despite the fact that they'd been divorced for 5 years and never tried in 5 years to get him back. Police also interviewed the school secretary and showed her photos of all the women in the family, including photos of Ruth, Stephanie, and Patricia, the cousin. The secretary was sure that even if one of them had a disguise, that it was not any of the women in the photos that picked Scotty up from school. Police were getting nowhere and decided to just make them all take polygraph tests. Ruth passed with flying colors. Donnie's test showed some inconsistencies, and Stephanie wouldn't take the test on grounds of pregnancy. The police made Stephanie go to the hospital to see if she was lying about the pregnancy, and sure enough, she was pregnant. At that time, and in that state, pregnant women could not take a polygraph test. Stephanie did provide a signature to see if it matched that of the woman's signature in the sign-out log at the school, but the signatures were not a match. They questioned Stephanie's friend, Susan, to confirm that she had been with Stephanie the morning of Scotty's disappearance doing laundry, and Susan confirmed that. On Friday, November 27th, 1992, Kentucky State Police called on the FBI for help. It had already been 2 days since Scotty's disappearance, and FBI wanted to locate Scotty and return him home safely, but felt like that may not happen. By now, Scotty could be anywhere. The FBI looked to the family for answers. Scotty left the school in a happy manner, so FBI felt that it just had to be someone he knew. Ruth was questioned once more and revealed that Donnie and his wife probably know more than they are telling. She stated she didn't trust Stephanie and that the few times she ran into Stephanie in town, she was with her friend Susan. She never could really just go up to Stephanie and talk to her because she would see that Stephanie and Susan acted immature, mocking and making fun of Ruth. Ruth told detectives that just a week before Scotty's disappearance, how Stephanie harassed Scotty. She harassed him and followed him home from school. Scotty knew that Stephanie hated how much time he spent with his father. Stephanie had a strong hate for Scotty and a deep jealousy over the time her husband gave to Scotty. Ruth said Scotty didn't like seeing his father if Stephanie was going to be there. The FBI agent got a really good impression of Ruth and said she was a concerned mother who was acting as a mother should act. Next, they questioned Donnie. Donnie told the agent how his wife was jealous over his son and that it caused a lot of bickering between the two. Donnie was asked to do a second polygraph test since the first one was inconclusive. Donnie passed the second test. Now that Donnie was talking, he seems to believe that Stephanie could be somehow involved. Donnie even found Stephanie's diary and gave it to the police for evidence. Now, her diary just told it all, how she felt about little Scotty and Donnie. She wrote in her diary things like, "I hate Donnie. Donnie loves Scotty more than me. I hate Scotty and wish he was gone. And if anything happens to Scotty, I wouldn't feel bad." FBI had Stephanie come in for a polygraph. FBI doesn't have a policy against giving pregnant women a polygraph test. So she failed the polygraph. When she came in to take the test, she did fail it. Stephanie was held for further questioning, but she held firm to her alibi that she was doing laundry that day with her friend Susan. FBI agent recalls how cold Stephanie was and how she didn't seem concerned at all that her stepson had been missing for 2 days. They did another handwritten analysis, and once again the signatures to that of Patricia Smith did not match. They felt Stephanie was involved, but they knew she was not the one who picked up Scotty from school. They felt like Stephanie and Susan's alibi and stories were just too down pat. 5 days after the disappearance, the detectives had been looking for Susan for further questioning. They were finally able to locate her in Florida. Her and her husband had went on a road trip because her husband was also a truck driver. So they were able to locate her in Florida. They searched the cabin of the truck, and they didn't find Scotty anywhere. They took Susan into the Miami, Florida police office for a polygraph test and handwritten analysis, which she failed. Susan maintained her story that she and Stephanie had done laundry the day Scotty disappeared. After a few hours, though, Susan finally broke. Susan told officers that Stephanie had came to her and said that she had a plan to scare Scotty. She asked Susan to be involved, and, at first she hesitated, or she claimed that she hesitated, and, she didn't want to be involved. But after a while, Stephanie convinced Susan to help her. Susan said she put on a dark wig and glasses, went into the school, and disguised herself as the family member, Patricia Smith, and signed Scotty out of school. Susan said Stephanie wanted to get back at her husband. She said she only did it because Stephanie said it was just to scare him and keep him from visiting his father. Now keep in mind that this is the same woman who made fun of and taunted and mocked Ruth with Stephanie every time they saw Ruth in town. And now she said she was only going to scare this little 10-year-old boy so that he doesn't visit with and go on this road trip with his father. I'm sorry, but this chick is just as sick and evil as Stephanie. Now Susan has Scotty in her custody, walks out of the school with him, and guess who is already in the car waiting? You guessed it, Stephanie. She was in the car hiding in the back seat so he couldn't see her, because he likely wouldn't have gotten in the car if he saw her. Scotty was telling, once they got in the car and, Stephanie was still hidden in the back seat, Scotty and Susan were in the front seat. Scotty was telling Susan how excited he was to be going with his father for the weekend. And this whole time, Stephanie was in the back seat listening to this and hiding. But she was you can probably imagine that she was getting more and more just fired up and angry. Now Stephanie, 4 months pregnant, reached up and grabbed little Scotty by the collar and began to choke him. He fought and kicked so hard that he put a dent in the dashboard. Experts stated it took Scotty 5 to 10 minutes to die. They drove Scotty to an abandoned strip mine, and they searched for a spot to hide the body. After a few hours had passed, they returned and set this little boy on fire. 6 days after Scotty was abducted, the authorities retrieved his charred remains with his backpack still on his back. Susan was released from prison in May of 2008. Stephanie is still serving her life sentence. Thank you for watching.